Vice President of the Texas Public Policy Foundation, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Chuck DeVore, and former Pentagon official and retired Navy Captain Brent Sadler. Gentlemen, thank you both. Clearly, Brent, they are pushing deeper into Gaza every single day. They killed a Hamas leader hiding in a refugee camp. I want to play this. This is from an IDF spokesperson concerning that blast. Watch.
My heart goes out to these civilians, but we have to ask the question, why was this Hamas battalion commander literally operating underneath a civilian area? It goes to show exactly what we're trying to face. They have no concern for their civilians.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point, Brent, because we know they're hiding in hospitals and civilian areas across Gaza.
Yes, it's an unfortunate characteristic of the fighting that's going to take place in Gaza. It's a heavily populated, densely populated area. And no matter where the combat's going to occur, there are going to be civilians. If they haven't left, they're going to get caught up in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting, Chuck, because, you know, we heard from Secretary of State Anthony Blinken today, and they preface every statement saying we are fully behind Israel, and yet they go on to give this big lecture of how Israel should conduct the war against Hamas. And so it kind of just, it's this perpetual pattern that we have seen over the past 2 or 3 weeks.
Right, and this is what Hamas was counting on. They were counting on, after this horrific attack where over 1,400, mostly civilians, were raped and tortured and slaughtered, and as you heard, over 200 now captives taken, hostages taken. They were counting on international pressure to hold Israel back from doing the necessary task, a very difficult task, of uprooting Hamas from Gaza. And the last thing that Israel needs is its closest ally, the United States, telling them how to operate in this war. They're the ones that lost some 1,400 people, equivalent to something like 8 to 9 times our 9/11.
Yeah. Meantime, I want to put this map up because we talked about this with Steve Harrigan and a couple of times in this show. This is the 27 attacks on U.S. troops. You can see there were 16 in Iraq and 11 in Syria. I mean, this has been ongoing, right? The administration keeps trying, Brent, to separate these attacks, right? Separate them from what's happening in Israel between the IDF and Hamas. And you wonder what that is. Here's General Ryder addressing this today with Rich Edson.
If they are separate, what has led to the increase in attacks over the past couple of weeks?
Well, certainly this is not the first time we've seen these Iranian proxy groups do these kinds of things for a multitude of purported various reasons. So that in and of itself is not unusual. And again, we'll do what we need to do to protect our troops.
They keep trying to separate them. They keep, these are separate battles, Brent.
Well, there's a couple of things wrong with the general statement in that, one, these attacks actually go back 2 years. They started to pick up in tempo, stretching back 2 years. And by my count, we're over 110, with the tempo in the last 2 to 3 weeks actually picking up markedly. And clearly they are connected. I mean, the groups that are involved are all clearly stating, from Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, they're all saying this is in reaction to and in support of Hamas in Gaza. So it's pretty clear the administration would rather not respond to these other attacks. And that actually is inciting it even more and more dangerous attacks.
Yeah. I mean, Chuck, it kind of comes down to, do you think it's time to be more aggressive with Iran?
So Captain Sadler is correct on this, and the problem is that the current Biden administration policy, this very timid policy, will in fact lead to American casualties. It will probably lead to American deaths. Look, Iran is perfectly willing to fight to the last Hamas terrorist, the last Houthi rebel, the last Hezbollah militiaman. Iran is the disease. These militia groups, these proxies, are merely the symptoms. And so we need to significantly escalate and, I think, use the U.S. Navy against Iranian naval assets like we did in 1988 with Operation Praying Mantis. Captain Sadler would know it well. And take the war to Iran to stand them down.
Yeah, we shall see. Chuck DeVore, Brent Sadler, gentlemen, thank you both. Meantime,